The reason your first aid kit had 2 of these as well is your sling is keeping your arm, up against your chest, but it can still go out like this. You can take the other one of these and kind of roll it up like a rope. And then, anybody still have their sling on? You do. Okay. Then what you would do is you could take this, come under the good arm, because you don't want to tie down the good arm, then he couldn't use it. But you can tie it like this so that now his arm isn't going to come out, but it's also not going to be able to go up. So this is a very secured arm. And did everybody get a chance to do it and we all switched up? Okay. Next thing that we need to do is we need to do a bleeding injury. So we want to head back to your seat. We've got some gauze in front of us, and you should have little 4x4s. Do we know what our 3 types of bleeding are? Different type, I guess. If you cut yourself with a paper clip, that's like a capillary bleed. It's going to ooze. You're not worried about that so much. Put a little Vaseline on it, you're good. If you cut one of these things on top of your hand, it's going to pour out. That's going to be a venous type of bleed. If I put some pressure on that, I'm going to be good after about 2 minutes of putting pressure on that. The bleeding should stop. Arterial is like if I cut right here, every time my heart beats, I'm going to hit the back wall with blood. It's just going to be squirting like that. Arterial is a lot harder to stop because it's got more pressure to it, and you may need to hold an arterial wound for longer, 5 to 7 minutes, to get it to stop. We don't touch blood. If at all possible, don't touch blood. You got gloves, perfect. If you have big rocks on your finger, gloves don't go on very well because they rip over the ring. So if you're going to be wearing gloves a lot, you can put your rings on chains when you're working. That may help you out because the gloves will rip pretty easily. Try not to use latex. A lot of people are allergic to latex. It's even hard to find latex gloves anymore, but if you do, try not to use them because you can leave a handprint on somebody who's allergic to latex just by touching them with those gloves. But blood is very, very bad, very, very dangerous. Dried blood can still hold hepatitis C for about 2 weeks. So if I bleed all over the table and I have hepatitis C, you come by a week later and you clean it up and you got a cut on your finger, you could get hepatitis C. So fresh blood, dried blood, doesn't matter, avoid it. So you've got your bleeding. Everybody's partner will have a bleeding forearm, and it's going to be the venous, so it's just going to be kind of pouring. You're going to take your little 4x4 square that you have, and you're going to put that on the wound. And if you have your sleeves rolled down, if you could pull your sleeves up for this, and you just put that right on her bleed, which is right there. And you're going to hold pressure on that thing. You're going to hold it kind of tight. Anybody know what you're going to do as you're holding this if it bleeds through? Perfect. Yes.
What did he say?
You get another piece of gauze. You put another piece on top. You keep stacking. You don't want to pull a bandage off because it's going to start to clot. You pull it off, it rips the wound back open. So you just stack.
You mentioned you raise.
You would. Yep. So you're bleeding here. It's not stopping by the pressure. So you raise the arm, just like that. And if it's continuing, then you could go on the inside, grab a pressure point, and that's going to stop it. Typically, you won't need the pressure point unless it's like an arterial bleed. You should be able to stop it with just pressure. But yeah, you raise that arm. If it's a bleeding leg, you raise the leg. Just elevate the part that's bleeding, and that's gravity is going to help stop the bleed. Once you've got the bleeding stopped, you want to bandage it. So you're going to take your little rollers, and you always want to start from the furthest part of the body away. So if your wound is right here, you want to start wrapping by your wrist and work your way up. And can I borrow the 2 of you for a second? And just have you come up front. A lot of times your gauze will stick or you'll have tape, but if you have neither, you've got your bleeding arm here, you're holding pressure, and you're going to want to wrap. Take this and just leave a little bit of it dangling like that. Oops. And then if you want to go ahead and wrap the rest of that.
So how tight?
You want it tight, but you don't want her fingers to change colors. Like if I'm pushing, you see how it goes white and back to pink?
Yeah.
If I push this after you're done and it goes white and stays white, it's too tight. You want it to be pretty tight, but not so much that she goes, oh, my hand's numb. Once you get it like that, yeah, you're going to tie it like a shoelace here. Yep. Make it all nice and pretty, but you can put this knot, if you do it right, you can put it right on top of the cut, which will hold pressure. But if her finger does turn blue, you pull that, it loosens the whole bandage, and she should get blood flow again. Everybody see that? Where you just leave that piece dangling so you have like a shoelace at the end of it? It's not the only way to do it. I kind of like that just because I never seem to have tape. Perfect. Did you leave a piece dangling? Well, if you didn't leave a piece dangling, the other thing that you can do, actually, yep, I'm gonna pull you up here real quick. The other way that you would do this, if you don't leave a piece dangling, there's another way that you can. A little bit of bondage going on, that's not right.
Something I was prepared for.
So what you could do here, if you didn't leave something, is you could just pull a piece of it out that has already been wrapped up, and then you can tie it off that way if you didn't leave something dangling. You would obviously use all of that, which I didn't, but ta-da. But yeah, you can just pull a little piece up and tie it off that way as well. You're good. So there's basically two ways that you can do that. Good. Nobody's fingers turned blue, did they?
Not mine.
Excellent, excellent. What are we going to do with an impaled object?
Put it on ice.
You could put it on ice. Do not remove it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. When you would wrap around it, it's sticking out right here. Just keep it as steady as you can and wrap around it. Only time you would ever remove an impaled object is if it's in the lungs or in the throat, which is impeding breathing. Because they have to breathe or they're going to die, so you would pull it out. Otherwise, everything stays.
I don't know if the bleeding has stopped yet.
Would you consider a compound fracture to be an impaled object?
No.
Would you push it back under the skin?
No.
Nope. You would. It's a different thing. It's more of an outward deal, but it's still kind of impaled. You would just want to protect it and wrap around it. Don't ever push anything back under the skin that has popped out of the skin. Never hold traction. Like if I broke my arm and there's a bone sticking out, don't come up and pull on my arm. You're going to straighten the bone out. It's going to make everything feel a lot better, but as soon as you let go, it's going to go back. And the bone's going to come through the skin, and it may come through a different hole. Now you've got two bleeding wounds. So if there's anything sticking out, just wrap around it. But you want to leave a little bit of it exposed. If there's a piece of glass sticking in the arm when you wrap, leave that little piece of glass exposed. Leave a little piece of bone exposed, because you don't want the next person coming up who's working on this wound to, come over here and put their hand on it and cut themselves because they didn't see that there was an impaled object.